Hello everybody, this is Sam and the Reflexology Certification Program gang over at the Foot Whisperer Reflexology Institute. We're here for our reproductive system weekend. We're going to learn how to palpate and walk through some of the reproductive reflexes on the feet today. Let's go ahead and say hi to everybody. We have Karen and Linda, and Julie's going to be reading for us. And we have Virginia, and Rosemary is on the table. And let's have Julie read nice and clear how we're going to find these reflexes, and we'll use this foot for our demo.
All right, beginning with the uterus and prostate. Okay. These are located on the inferior surfaces of the medial malleoli.
Okay, so uterus prostate reflex sends uterus in females, prostate in males, but they're both located in the same. Rosemary doesn't have a really thick medial malleolus, but it's right through here, and then underneath that point is the uterus prostate. So what you'll feel is you'll feel this nice chronic uterus prostate reflex right in between the tibia and the soleus, and then you just trace that down and it feels like a little ridge, and that ridge is the reflex, and you would just hold that with a pinpoint pressure. Rosemary's nodding, hopefully not in pain, and that would be a great way to stimulate that reflex back into balance. If you'd like, you can also use a nice supporting hand and use a very gentle rotation to stimulate that reflex as well, but this reflex tends to be pretty tender to the touch anyway, so always use your client as a good feedback system for that. Okay, and then we have the ovary testes.
Correct, and to diagonally, those are to locate that as diagonally halfway between the lateral malleoli and the planted lateral edge of the calcaneus.
Perfect. So we have two malleoli, the medial and lateral. So now we're on the lateral. This one's a little bit easier to see on Rosemary. And then we look for the most lateral surface of that heel, and we kind of draw a line halfway between. It feels like a little bump. That's what you're feeling for. It's another very pinpoint reflex, and that's the ovary testes reflex. If you just palpate through there, you're going to feel one little bump that feels a little bit bigger than the rest, and that slight increase in tissue texture is the direct reflex for that ovary testes. Just nice circular rotation. You can see that I have my middle finger propped on my second finger to palpate into that reflex. If you'd like, you can also add a nice little wrist bend, but ovary testes reflexes are on the lateral surface of the heel, whereas uterus prostate is on the medial surface of that heel. Okay, and now let's go in between, walking those fallopian tubes and vas deferens.
Located on the anterior ankle, forming a bridge between the two malleoli, the fallopian tube and the vas deferens reflex is full of sensitive and tight tendons. Gentle palpation and static pressure are used to feel and target active reflex points without rolling over these tight and sensitive tendons.
Yes, so you can see that as I push her foot back, there are these really tight, stringy tendons that I'm plucking, and that normally doesn't feel good, so we don't want to do that too much to make Rosemary jump. But if we were to try to finger walk or thumb walk through this area, we would just be rolling through this kind of forest of tendons. So what we want to do is we want to start on the medial surface with just really nice, gentle, circular palpation, and we want to feel through the tendons, like right there. That's a nice point to hold right in that fallopian tube reflex. And we just want to use our fingers to palpate through that fallopian tube and groin, as well as vas deferens reflex, and just feel for active reflex points that maybe want to be deactivated. So any issues of severe congestion, any issues or points that seem to be a little bit more inflamed, and we walk all the way across from medial to lateral. And then one technique that I will do is I'll actually just send a nice pump of fluid through that dorsal surface of the ankle, because this tends to be a seat of swelling in a lot of people, especially if they do have any kind of pelvic trauma. The ankles will signify that by swelling as well. So those are our major reflex points for this weekend. I hope that this has been of help to you. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact us using the info at the end of this video, and we will be back next weekend starting all over with the bones is our next weekend. So we'll be talking about some active reflex points for the bones. And that's all we have for you this week.